Yo, what is good, YouTube? Welcome back to another JC2K video. In today's video, we are going to be talking about defensive and offensive settings, how to save them, all that type of stuff here in NBA 2K24 MyTEAM, the best settings you can run here for day one, week one of MyTEAM. Just trying to set y'all up for success, man. Yes, I know the gameplay's frustrating this year, but these types of tips are what it can help, I think, a lot, especially a lot of new players out, but really a lot of people are going to benefit from this type of stuff. And there's more customization than ever with savable settings and things like that this year, which I think is pretty fire. So we're going to make a video on that today, and I'm going to share with you all the best settings that I think are great for here week one in MyTEAM. So with that being said, before we hop into the video, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 30,000 subscriber mark on the channel. I upload every single day, tons of consistent daily MyTEAM content. Would really appreciate it if y'all do subscribe. Without further ado, let's hop right into it and let's discuss. So to set your settings, all you need to do is come into your lineup management, click on the lineup that you want to run, and scroll over to your coaching tab, and then scroll down to your coach game plan. So coach game plan gives you a few different settings. You have coach settings that you can adjust. For me, I turn all this stuff up. A tactic coaching engine off, timeout off, or timeout to manual, player minutes to manual, substitution to manual. I turn late game fouling to manual. I just want to control as much as I possibly can, and those are all the settings that I changed for coach settings personally. So that is what I would recommend y'all set your coach settings to as well, although if you want to do it differently than me, that's fine. I just like to have as much control as possible. Player minutes, none of this matters, especially when you're doing your own substitutions. This really only matters if you have auto substitutions on. I don't have auto substitutions on. It really doesn't matter either way, but because of my OCD, I'm going to fix this anyway and give ML Carr some minutes, but it doesn't matter. It just doesn't. I mean, that's the honest truth right now. It just does not matter what you put your minutes on, especially if you are auto subbing. So who really cares too much about this? With that being said, my OCD does not let me not put this proper, so we're going to fix it nice and clean so it looks right, and there you go. Now, we'll talk about this real quickly, and then we'll really get into the settings that I think people are interested in, but this is super duper neat this year, and the fact that you can change these on the fly lineups and change the way they substitute is pretty fire. You can substitute your own tall lineup. For example, if I wanted to put Victor Wembanyama in my tall lineup, I can do that. And then when I go down on the D-pad in game, whoops, drop my controller, right trigger over to the on the fly lineups and select tall lineup, I can have this set to whatever I want it to be. Now, I personally don't use these on the fly lineups too much. I pretty much just sub in my bench, but for a lot of people, this type of stuff is going to be cool. Late in the game, you're up by 5 points. You want to get your free throw lineup in because you're going to get intentionally fouled by your team or by your opponent. Here you go. You can set a free throw lineup here with the best free throw shooters and the guys you have the most comfortable releases with in the game. You can set a custom lineup, set a custom bench, whatever you want to do. Set a tall lineup, set a quick lineup, set a defense lineup. You can set all of these on the fly lineups as well, which is something you haven't been able to do really in years and years and years in MyTEAM. You were able to set them in game, or at least set your bench in the past, but that hasn't been even a thing in a very long time. And now you can set all these different on the fly lineups, which I think is a very neat, very cool feature that a lot of people are going to take advantage of. Now, moving on to defensive settings, I will say this: defensive settings, you have been able in the past couple of years, the last 2 years, I believe, to change your defensive settings yourself. But this year you can continue to save them, and this year I'm going to share the main defensive settings that I personally am using early in the year. So, number one, on-ball pressure. I put on-ball pressure on tight. I know y'all already saw that. I do put it on tight. I think that's the best way to do it as of right now, unless you you can adjust all these stuff obviously individually for players, but on-ball pressure, I'm leaving on tight for the majority of cards. If it's a big, you can move this down to moderate or even gap, but in general, I think tight is the base setting to leave this on. Off-ball pressure, moderate or tight, either one are good options. The problem with moderate is if it's not a very good defender, doesn't have a high perimeter defense rating, they're just going to be able to shoot over you, especially when you're on moderate. So I think tight can be good, especially for a really nice shooter, guy who's got a great release, all that type of stuff. But moderate can help prevent those back doors more and set you up in a better situation to get those stops. So I think moderate or tight, depending on the player, is really what you go with. Again, if you get a non-shooter, for example, if you're playing against Wilt or free agent Kareem or somebody like that who can't hit a three really, put it on gap. Leave it to a different setting. But otherwise, if it's a capable shooter, you want to go moderate or tight, depending on how you're feeling about that player's release and that type of stuff. Generally, I leave it auto set on tight. Now, on-ball screen. Early in the year last year, I left this on go under. This year, I don't think it's worth leaving on go under. I think you just leave it on automatic. I think that's the best place to go right now because of the fact that a lot of guys are truly good shooters. Again, you can adjust it. But with the way the contest system is right now, yes, shooting itself is hard and the green windows are inconsistent and things of that nature and can be challenging. But the contest system is not going to let you get away with going under, especially on a really nice shooter this year. So if you want to put it on go under on a slashing PG like a Derrick Rose or somebody like that, I totally understand that. Adjusting these types of settings, again, for individual players is a great idea, but in general, I think leaving it on automatic right now is the best way to go. Same thing with the on-ball screen for the center. Force direction-wise, I haven't touched this in years, to be honest. I would say if you're going to do it, maybe you do force baseline, quite simply because the stepping on the baseline is easier to do this year as an offensive player than it's been in the past. But again, I think leaving this on automatic is probably for the best. Hedge for both these settings, I have been leaving on automatic last year. Last year, I put it on soft hedge, but I think this year, automatic is the way to go, at least for right now, and just try to control it myself as much as possible. Stay attached. This is a setting that in the past I used to put on yes as well. Not anymore. Again, I just kind of want the majority of settings being controlled by me, just being able to control what I can, and yes will basically make them, I guess you have always and only on screens now as options, but I think it's cool that this is an option, but I really do think leaving it on automatic again and just letting yourself control the X switching and stuff like that, especially if you're a skillful defensive player, is probably the way to go. Post and off-ball screen, none of this stuff is something I would ever touch. Some people like to have auto double teams on and stuff. I am not one of those people, so definitely wouldn't touch either of those two settings. Wouldn't touch the switch rules because, again, I want to control my own switches. And then pre-rotate, also I turn to no. Now, most importantly, I think for defensive settings, and really the only other things that I think as of right now are worth touching. I know this isn't a ton for defensive settings in terms of actual settings, but all three of these help rules need to be turned to to no help, just because if you turn them on to help and no rotation, or just leave them on automatic, your players will help willy-nilly out of the corners, off the hash, just leave shots wide open, make it much, much easier for your opponent to score. So for me, no help, just like for the last several years, is always the way to go with these screen, drive, and cutter help rules. Finally, you can set custom plays in this screen. Now, I will say this, I do not believe as of right now that the custom plays actually save. So you do have to go in game to set your custom plays if you want to run them. For example, if you were to want to run some HTBs off ball deodorant right here, you might set quick 4-ounce flare, punch 5 rip, punch 5 flare rip. There you go. Problem is, if I come back in here, maybe they fixed it. Maybe they fixed it because earlier today that was not working and it wasn't coming up, but now apparently it seems to be. Maybe I did something differently, but apparently you can now save it because earlier today I tried to save plays and it wasn't letting me, but now it will let you save plays as well. So that's pretty neat. I think it's very, very cool that that is a real option to save your plays here in 2K25. And if you're a play runner, that's something that's very useful. Also, you can save up to 4 freelances. For me, just having 5 out bucks 2018 or comp saved, especially 5 out of bucks 2018, is kind of the way to go. I made a video on how to 5 out yesterday, but that is very important with freelances for spacing the floor and stuff. So whatever freelance you like to run, maybe you're one of those guys who likes to run point freelance, which kind of runs some basic plays for you and stuff like that. You can set your freelance and all that type of stuff here as well. So that is pretty much, honestly, one of the cooler changes that 2K made so far this year, I feel like, is the ability to customize more of this stuff than you've been able to in the past, and to save more of it than you've been able to in the past as well. Very, very neat, very cool, and something that I do hope continues for I mean, quality of life updates are always appreciated, right? So I'm not saying there's going to be a bunch of other quality of life updates this year, but it's the type of thing that I hope continues in the future, and I'm glad to see this improvement this year in this area. So hopefully this video was helpful to y'all in a few different fronts, and if so, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back on more 2K content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace!